jolly Christmas, it's the best time of the year. I don't know if there'll be snow, but have a cup of cheer. Have a holly jolly Christmas, and when you walk down the street.
And welcome back to one of our final end-of-the-year cleanup shows. I am joined by...
Tim Cockshaw.
Thank you, Tim. Mark is still in a work hellhole, and will be until January when he returns to us. So Tim and I, for a couple of weeks, are going to just sort of clean things up before the holidays officially get absolutely crazy for everybody.
What are we? Literally a week from Christmas. It's a week today, right?
No, we're what are we? We're 2 weeks.
2 weeks from Christmas.
We're 2 weeks from Christmas. This is where we are, because we have been caught up in our. You didn't make the voting meeting because you actually were out earning money.
I had to actually go make some money.
Yeah.
In order to maintain my prestigious position in the Los Angeles Film Critics
but
Association.
It was. Did you get a report on the meeting from anybody? Did you talk?
Yeah. I saw the minutes and of course our choices. Interesting choices.
They were, for those who
I sent my votes in by proxy. Mark did that for me. Mark proxied me.
Mark proxied Tim. Tim was very funny. You didn't vote for anybody for director because you didn't feel anybody earned it.
Nobody stuck the landing. Nobody stuck the landing. Not a single one. And I mean that. Nobody really stuck the landing.
Yeah, I mean there are some efforts that I liked. But yeah, it was, this is one of those years like last year where I kind of felt a lot of really good films, but no greatness kind of stood out. But
nothing that made you want to go see it again, take a friend, make that phone call, or just ruminate over it, even if it's just a personal thing. A film, 12 Years a Slave.
Yeah,
that's not a film that I sent people to see specifically, but it lived with me and I ruminated over it. Lincoln a couple of years ago, I ruminated over these films. These are really thoughtful films. This year, good movies. The Martian, it was this really, really fun movie, big movie. Matt Damon, all kinds. Ridley Scott is back and all of that. But that's the most fun I had all year.
The Martian is hilarious. You've heard this, right? It's one of the best comedies of the year.
Well, the Golden Globes is just about it. Look, and Matt is funny in that movie. But come on, cut it out.
This is where the Golden Globes just get completely ridiculous when that comedy drama thing.
Yeah.
Which there's always a ringer in there. There's always a dramatic film that they stick in comedy because they can't figure out how to squeeze 6 of the best.
And they're going to need those people to come to the show.
Exactly. You want
we need those people at the show.
They want Matt Damon at the show.
They should just make up a category called the category for the film that doesn't fit into any of the other categories, but we need these people to come to the show.
Yeah, exactly.
Call it that.
So funny. Anyway, but yeah, Spotlight as a top film.
The thing that's wonderful about Spotlight is that it is an ensemble movie. Nothing stands out.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is good, but nothing stands out.
It's very measured,
thoughtful, and relentless.
Mm-hmm.
But again, to be honest with you, and nominations all around.
Mm-hmm.
It's still not a film that I would actually send people to. You got to go see. Oh man, there's this movie called Spotlight, and you got to. No, you don't say that sentence about that movie.
Yeah. It's what I thought was interesting in the voting, and I was surprised that Carol was not in the running when it came down to Best Picture, because it's interesting. For the there's a dynamic in the room that's always really interesting, and for those who kind of follow this show for a few years, we've explained this before. You start each category at a different point in the room. You sort of pick a random person to start, and they will give 3 points to their top choice for the award, 2 points to their number 2, and then 1 point to the third. And you sort of roll through the room, and you notice that there will be a wave for a certain film. And you think, "Oh my goodness, it's really..." And then somebody else starts a wave for another one, and it's very dynamic. It's very fluid.
Well, the weighted voting allows for all kinds of possibilities.
All kinds. And it's very interesting. And sometimes it's very clear. There is one film that is insanely popular, and the top 2 point getters then goes into a runoff. And we used to do a show of hands on that, which got a little hazy. And then, so now we do secret ballot and a little piece of paper, and you write your choice down and you drop it in, and everybody at the executive, the officers at the front, they sit there and they count them real quickly, and then you wind up with a winner. And sometimes,
which is a little bit more anonymous and probably a little bit more.
It was interesting. I will not, without divulging anything, there were a few cases this year where, in a given category, there were 2 films, the final 2, and in most categories we announce the runner-up, so you can guess your own. But there were cases where one had a ton of points, and then number two didn't have so many points. But the number two had more threes and fewer twos and ones, and the one with the most had a lot of twos and a lot of ones. And then you go into the runoff, and it was the one with more threes, the one that didn't have as many points, but had more support as the better film. It was no more top choice points. And that was always interesting. But Carol was right there behind, with Mad Max on a couple of those categories. And then it wound up being Spotlight and Mad Max at the top. We gave Best Director, of course, to George Miller. But I thought it was really interesting that Mad Max, which is about as commercial and digital and sort of, obvious Hollywood filmmaking as can be, yet very personal, it was right in there with these very classic sort of critics films like Spotlight and Carol. Yeah. That was a really interesting contrast.
Yeah. And not to mention the way that it actually went.
Yeah.
It'll make for an interesting evening.
I am just in awe of the fact that when I was nerding out as a kid over stuff like, not necessarily even Star Wars. I mean, how weird is it now that here we are in 2015 and we've got another Star Wars film, another Mad Max film, another Rocky film.
Yeah.
It's like, has anything...
all of the sort of iconic films, and and let me say, I say this sincerely because I joke a lot, but those films really are iconic to me. Those were sort of like personality shaping films for me at a certain age, particularly if you go back to the Star Wars films, because I was very young then.
Yeah,
and they sort of built my sort of understanding of big Hollywood cinema, because that's when big Hollywood cinema started to happen.
It did, mid-70s.
In that particular way. That's our generation. Our generation ushered that in. And we were formed by that stuff. So it's really a strange thing now, 30 plus years on, 40 sometimes years on, to see all of these things coming back.
These mythic sagas are still following us.
Yeah.
And it is kind of amazing. But I never would have imagined that when I was nerding out as a kid and I was so excited for this low-budget Australian movie, and all I knew about it was it had cars crashing on the commercial and some guy in black leather, and then that poster with the helmet and the sawed-off shotgun and the black leather, and I was just like, that's so cool. That is so cool. Never would I have imagined that 40 some odd years later I'm a member of a critics organization and I'm voting to give that thing awards like Best Director, a sequel.
It's the same guy.
It's the same director.
The same director.
It is weird.
Interesting though that all of that being as it is, that that movie, is such a different movie.
It is.
It's a movie with a different ethos.
But Miller has said that himself. He has even said he could not have picked up the story because the original Mad Max films were about then, and so much in the world has changed. This is about now, and it's about I think the way that he described it, because the funny thing is, if you think about it, the time frame of when the Road Warrior took place, that would be taking place right about now.
Yeah. In terms with about 40 years in its future. Yeah.
And so now he has to reinvent the Mad Max saga as something that is not the future beyond the 70s, but the future beyond where we are right now.
Right,
so he's kind of he's reinvented it as something more dynamic, more relevant, and I think it's paying dividends. That thing is going to land a ton of Oscar nominations
and more feminine,
with
all the same elements.
Yeah.
All the original elements, the action, the adrenaline, the high speed chases, a certain amount of violence, all the same elements, but all applied to a completely different set of meanings.
It's and I'm glad that it's getting the awards recognition, because it kind of underperformed as a tentpole movie. It didn't get the big numbers that I think Warner Brothers was hoping it would get. I think in large part because it was rated R. It did not have a star in it that people sort of connect to. It's not it's not Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt or somebody sitting there. Or
Tom Hardy and Charlize Theron.
Yeah. There's no Jennifer Lawrence, right? There's no all those. Tom Hardy is not a household name, and Charlize Theron is hardly somebody that people associate with tentpoles. So it didn't really make the giant numbers that I think Warner was hoping for, but it's now suddenly it's getting that critical recognition, and I think this is one of those rare cases where a commercial movie actually will benefit from Academy Awards. Usually, that's sort of like, well,
From awards nomination, yeah.
Did Avatar really need any awards? Was it going to get anything out of awards it didn't already have? No.
Yeah.
No. Neither was Titanic and even Star Wars back in 77, 78. So anyway, it's going to be a very interesting awards season.
Well, it's already interesting in terms of the things that aren't there.
Yeah.
The fact that The Danish Girl is not a film that's really registering.
Isn't that interesting?
And Carol, too, for that matter. Carol, a film I appreciate more than a film that I would want to award. If the talented Mr. Ripley did not exist, I would feel differently about Carol, which is an interesting thing.
See, Carol is a film I really love a lot, but I do recognize that it seems to have a ceiling to its appeal. It had a moment where people thought it was gaining momentum when the New York film critics gave it their Best Picture and Best Director and all that.
It's a cool movie. It's very cool.
Well, it's
very cold.
It's very Patricia Highsmith.
Yeah,
it's very Patricia Highsmith, and even with talented Mr. Ripley, there's something about Highsmith, and we'll move on to DVDs here in a moment. And by the way, we should preface this by saying we have not had we're cleaning up with a lot of titles that have come in, but Tim, have we had even remotely a second to watch anything other than screeners for awards?
No. It's had to be very in the present.
Oh my gosh, it's been nuts. It's just been crazy. I think the last 10 days before voting, I was burning through like 4 movies a day, and it was horrendous. It's just you get sick of it at a certain point, don't you?
Yeah, and which is kind of tough because there's movies that you've been looking forward to, and now you're tired. You got to see, The Revenant and all this kind of stuff, and you get a little, and then you have to think to yourself, well, wait a minute now. Maybe I'm being a little hard on this movie.
Yeah, because I'm sick of it.
Yeah, and my eyes are burning.
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
Yeah.
It's that bit's over now.
Yeah. So, oh man, it really does. It starts when you get that first screener, usually around the end of October.
It was Grandma.
That was
Grandma.
The first one. Lily Tomlin.
The first one. It was Grandma. Yeah.
And you get that, and you're like, well, good. They're getting them out early this year, and you're all excited, and you pop it in, and you watch it, and you go, oh, good. I'm really getting a handle on this. And then by the time like your Thanksgiving week, that the couple of days before Thanksgiving, and they're rolling in 4 and 5 a day,
eating pie and watching movies, baby.
Oh, and you're just looking at it, and you're like, oh, I'm so sick of this. And then something will come in that's supposed to be good, and you just go, screw you. I'm sick of all of you. And it's just you get angry at the screeners. You get angry at them. No, it's so we have not had a chance to really go through a lot of this. We're cleaning things up because a lot of this stuff warrants mentioning. But the last point I was going to make was that I find it really, really interesting in awards years how there's sort of a thing that happens where the first, the National Board of Review will weigh in always with something that's completely out of left field. And this year it was Mad Max, which was interesting because they kind of saw what a lot of others didn't. And then the New York film critics, who always try to do it earlier than L.A. because they got mad at us because we beat them to the punch for a few years. So now they do it ridiculously early, like December 1st. And we're always going to be, around December 6, 7, 8. That's just what makes sense.
And we see more movies. Yeah.
And, and then the Golden Globes follow, usually the Thursday after, we vote on a Sunday. It's usually, we get 4 days of limelight, and then we disappear under the umbrella of the Golden Globes. And then
SAG is in there somewhere.
And then, SAG slots in the WG, and then all the guilds start weighing in. And it's always really, really interesting. The prognostication process used to usually ride on a few critics groups in the Golden Globes. And now it's almost overloaded. People really get sick of the season. But what I find really interesting is if you sort of put all the award stuff to the side, if you just sort of forget about the whole the pompousness of the season and how everybody has to put on a pretty face and walk way too many red carpets, and actresses get sick and tired of having to buy 18 different dresses so that nobody sees them wearing the same thing for every ceremony, and they have to get their hair and their makeup done a million times, and everybody really just wants to sit at home and watch the Oscars. Nobody actually wants to go to these shows. But apart from all of that stuff, it is really interesting to read the tea leaves over the years and see how the opinions change and what people value and what they don't. And I continue to see what I've seen for the last 10 years now, which is that there is with very few exceptions, Mad Max being this year, there continues to be a real rejection of big Hollywood movie making and a real embracing of things like Spotlight, which, what Spotlight does is it refuses to be a movie that has Hollywood beats. It doesn't have that first act beat and that sudden turning point and that thing and that high point and that denouement. All those things that they teach you in screenwriting seminars. You got to do this and this and this and this. Doesn't do that.
Yep.
It throws them all out.
It works the story the way the story is to be worked. And, it's watching that movie get rewarded, if it does, in fact, get rewarded with things other than nominations, will be good. Because it means that other filmmakers will get a chance to go out and do some things that are a little bit off the beaten path and not exactly... Birdman would be the one from last year. Same sort of thing. Yeah. Whatever you think about the film, it didn't shape itself in the ordinary way. Mr. Sid Field... would not care for that.
A third coming of Michael Keaton. He's on top again. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
They come and go.
He doesn't have to put on tights.
Well, I'm going to blow through. We have an ungodly amount of anime that has poured in, and so I'm gonna just plow through this as best as I can. I've taken a gander at some of it. We have a few Christmas things that have been late arriving. Want to give you a mention of those as well. The first thing I got here. This is a great gift. This is a great Christmas gift too. This is a Funimation release, Black Lagoon, the complete series, 4 discs, 29 episodes, 2 seasons plus OVA. Those of you who are really, really into the whole anime thing. And it comes in this kind of...
wicked-looking box.
In a wicked-looking box. It looks like a little military-grade case that's been kind of beaten all to crap. This is a really, really good show. And there are a lot of... This has a really huge fan following, and it is a great action-oriented anime show. Really a fun thing. I'd be surprised if they don't at some point turn this into something live action. Actually, it is. It's got a real vibe to it. So, Black Lagoon, the complete series, in a great boxed set that if you're an anime fan, definitely going to want to check that out. We've also got from Funimation another One Piece. This thing just never ends, this whole kind of pirate fantasy thing. This is One Piece collection number 14. Comes with some decent extras and some commentaries. That would also be a good gift. And the other one from Funimation that just keeps on trucking is Fairy Tail, Tail. A little wicked pun there. This is collection 5 with episodes 97 to 120, just so that you know how far and deep this show goes. This show also has a really, really huge following. I stopped really trying to keep up with this saga several collections ago. It's just too hard. Blu-ray and DVD combo pack. It's one of those popular shows that anime people will just lock themselves in a basement and watch until the end of time. From Sentai Filmworks through the Section 13 people is Dramatical Murder, the complete collection. This is 12 episodes plus OVA on 2 discs. Looks interesting enough. Not something that I've had time to really give a look at. A couple more from Funimation here that I had never heard of before they arrived, and both of them have kind of the same style of artwork. Blu-ray and DVD combo packs, both of them. One is Danganronpa, the animated series, episodes 1 through 13, the last episode of which was apparently never aired. And then Dragonar Academy, which, I have to say one thing about anime. When they want to make young women and young girls look cute, those artists are just beyond... They're beyond belief.
Yeah, big eyes.
And... They somehow make them. They create people who look cuter than anyone's imagination could possibly come up with. Anyway, the lead character in this thing, named Ash Blake, who's a guy, by the way. I'm not talking. Ash is not the woman, but he goes to this place called Anne Sullivan Dragonar Academy. And this is where you learn to kind of be like a dragon rider, and it's a little bit like what was the DreamWorks film, How to Tame Your Dragon?
How to Tame Your Dragon, How to Tame Your Dragon 2.
This is like an anime approach to that, but my goodness, the kind of dragon girls here are just phenomenal. They're just phenomenal. It's like the greatest artwork I've ever seen. Enough of that. Let me go through the rest of this real quickly. We've also got from Funimation. Buddy Complex, the complete series, Blu-ray and DVD combo set. This is a little bit in the Transformers vein, if you're into the whole robot thing. Sentai Filmworks, we got a few here. The Sentai Selects line. This is Battle Doll, Angelic Layer Complete Collection. That's on DVD only. And then we also have Invaders of the Rokujioma Complete Collection, 12 episodes. This is on the kind of kitschy, teasy, comedy end of things. And then similar to that is the second season of Hayate, the Combat Butler, 25 episodes. Samurai Jam, Bakamatsu Rock. Really, really great artwork. Complete collection here, also from Sente Filmworks. It's a little bit cheesy, the whole kind of rock and roll scene thing in anime. It feels a little bit juvenile, a little bit pandering, but it's really, really good artwork. If you love the old Gotcha Man, did you ever watch Gotcha Man? This has been around for decades.
I don't remember that.
Gotcha Man, when I was a kid, was a big deal. It was a big deal. It was like with Battle of the Planets.
Yeah, I was more of an Eighth Man, Tobar the Eighth Man.
Yeah, no, this is Gotcha Man goes all the way back, like almost to Speed Racer times.
Okay.
Anyway, they've resurrected Gotcha Man again because now it's a superhero age, and Gotcha Man the movie is really good. It's really, really good. I'm just kind of stunned that this is still a thing and that they're able to sort of reinvent it. Anyway, it's giant monsters and superheroes and space going. It's better than Marvel. I'll tell you that. Blue Sky, La Corda d'Oro Complete Collection. Really, really good animation here. This is a whole basically takes place with a musical prodigy. And it's more dramatic. It's the world of it's coming of age, and it's kind of more of an adult animation thing. Umi Monogatari is just pure raw cute girl titillation for dirty old Japanese men, and more power to them. Mobile Suit Gundam Collection 1. You got to know what that is. That's that's Iron Man meets giant robots.
I love those big mech warrior suit.
They're just great. More relentless titillation in Tamayura Hitotose. Little schoolgirls in outfits. Dirty old Japanese men.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, but that's the audience for this stuff. They keep it going. Black Bullet Complete Collection. Really, really incredibly violent, but kind of in a cool way. Here's a bunch I didn't have a chance to even remotely take a look at, but they look great. Blade and Soul, the Complete Collection. Woman in a Bustier. More of that great Japanese animation. I wonder what these guys... come on. Give it up.
Well,
These artists, they sit there with pen and ink and they make magic. Space Brothers Collection 5.
Yeah, we'll call it magic.
We'll call it magic. Space Brothers Collection 5. This is an ongoing, really, really popular series from Sente. He is My Master, the Complete Collection. Little girls, big eyes in maid outfits.
with French-made outfits.
French-made outfits with garter belts. I don't need to tell you the plot because the people who watch this don't care. Hidamari Sketch. Little girls in little red schoolgirl dresses with big eyes. I don't need to tell you the plot. Blue Spring Ride is a 12-episode complete collection. This actually has some very interesting artwork, and I'm probably going to try to throw this on in the next couple of days or so. It all takes place in middle school. It's one of those, schoolboy coming of age things that they also do, but it doesn't look like titillation to me. Glass Lip. Girls in uniforms. I'm telling you, Tim, there's a theme here.
I'm telling you.
It's there's another Space Brothers. Sorry, Collection 6 Space Brothers is out also. And the last few here real quickly. Sente Selects has released Lunar Legend Tsukihime, which I have been told by anime people is also really, really good and really worth checking out. It deals with kind of psychic kids and sort of like an X-Men mutant
more teenage kind of fare.
thing.
Pretty sophisticated animation there. Actually, that's not the titillating kind of stuff. That's sort of sophisticated Akira kind of stuff.
I've been told it's quite good. And then Please Twins is also out. This has a following. This is apparently very, very funny, and I need to catch up on that as well.
Kind of like an anime Archie, Jughead's, Veronica and Betty.
Yeah. Another Gundam. This is Gundam called Turn a Gundam. More of the big robot suit and a lot of destruction. And then the last two, for those who are fans of Dragon Ball, this also never goes away. Dragon Ball Z Resurrection F, which is, again, I have spoken to some anime people, and they have said this is really the real deal. This is some of the best Dragon Ball they've seen in a long time. That is a Blu-ray DVD combo set. And then this one looks unbelievably cool. That's why I saved this till last. This is a Sente Filmworks title, Aura, Koga Maryuin's Last War. And this appears to be a really, really, really cool fantasy epic. And it seems to follow kind of a Lord of the Ringsy narrative, but it certainly seems to be really, really cool. So that is on Blu-ray from Sente Filmworks through Section 13. Aura, A-U-R-A, Koga Maryuin's Last War. Really, really looking forward to that. So, Tim, we're done with the anime. What do we have as far as new films and classic films that have rolled in?
Well, I got a little stack of both of those over here,
Okay.
some of which are a lot of fun, so far as I'm concerned anyway. One of which is FX2. You remember FX 1986?
Yeah, Brian Brown.
Brian Brown, fantastic film.
Sure.
Sort of set in the movie industry, which was a neat thing at the time because it kind of took us. It was before I came to LA, before I was a professional film critic. That was a lot of fun for me.
I've always thought that those were the films that directly inspired MacGyver.
You know what? I think you might be right. Aussie films; those were Australian films, right?
Yeah. And it's a question that I always meant to ask. Vin DeBona, who was a producer on MacGyver, was a professor of mine in school, and I remember that was a question I always wanted to ask him. I always wanted to ask him: was FX and MacGyver? Did they ever? Is there a thing going on there? Because Vin became famous and very rich by stealing things, quite frankly. He did, seriously. And he would tell you that. He's the first person to tell you. He would go to Japan, he'd see some wacky game show, and then he'd come back here and he just sort of got the rights to it from Japan, and he'd do an American version, and all of those like Animal Crack-Ups, you remember those Saturday morning game shows? He did all that stuff, and they're all based on really, really scary Japanese game shows. Because in Japan, game shows they're not like I'll take 300. I'll take Cuban military advisors for
quiz shows.
No, they're not quiz shows. It's like if we take this caterpillar and if we squirt arsenic on it, will you snort it in your nostril for $350? And somebody will actually do that, and it's really disturbing. It's terrifying actually. So
so we brought this. FX2, 1991 film. Brian Dennehy again. Brian Dennehy and Brian Brown, again, I should say. A neat film. What I like knowing most about this film, it's directed by a guy named Richard Franklin. Richard Franklin directed the Psycho sequel, Psycho 2.
That's right.
Which was like 20 years after the original film, but was meant to be a direct sequel from the Hitchcock film. What possessed this guy to think that he could follow up Hitchcock? He's a fun guy. It's a neat film. Anyway, FX2 Blu-ray. It has a making of featurette on it, a couple of trailers and stuff like that. And I don't actually remember seeing this movie at that time. But if it's as good as the original FX, it would actually be quite a lot of fun. I've got a new release, the Stanford Prison Experiment. This was a neat film that came out just last year. It was based on the actual Stanford Prison Experiment from 1971. Took place up in Stanford. A professor set up a team of 24 students. Half of them were designated prisoners. The other half were designated guards, and they were given the authority that they were given, and things got out of hand. This actually happened. It's
like that German experiment that they did in the film Das Experiment.
Which I believe was a darker sort of situation.
Much darker situation, but these I always wonder why when they do these experiments, if they go wrong somewhere in the world, why does somebody in some other part of the world think that if they replicate it, it will somehow turn out differently?
There's always a brighter professor somewhere.
Doesn't.
This one has a commentary track on it with the director Kyle Patrick Alvarez, a featurette. It was a neat movie. Didn't get a lot of purchase at the time, but I saw it and I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah,
tense in a certain kind of way. A fun movie for me, Remo Williams, The Adventures of Begin.
Ah.
Dude, I got to tell you, I loved this movie when it came out. It was a lot of fun. Joel Grey, in the film with Fred Ward and Wilford Brimley.
Joel Grey in that makeup.
The neatest thing that which I don't think you can get. That's almost as bad as Mickey Rooney and Breakfast at Tiffany's nowadays. Although there's a joke in there someplace that I'm not sure what's going on. Neatest thing about this film, directed by Guy Hamilton. Who directed a number of the
James Bond films
of the Bond films at the time. Neat movie. This doesn't have a whole lot on it. It's a 1985 film. A lot of fun. Remo Williams, Fred Ward still walking around a bit. A newer release, Kurt Russell film.
Oh, Bone Tomahawk.
Bone Tomahawk. Patrick Wilson.
But between this and The Hateful Eight, he's doing a Western thing now, isn't he? He's like getting into Tombstone mode over and over and over.
He's got the look for it now, of course.
Yeah.
He's got the the beard and all that kind of. This was pretty neat. Again, didn't get a lot of purchase when it first came out, but it's a violent film.
Yeah.
You got to be ready to sort of watch this kind of thing. Kind of cool. So check it out if you get a chance. A little film that I saw when it actually came out this year was Desert Dancer. Frida Pinto film. It was a lovely film, moving film set during around the time of the Iranian Revolution. It's about a man who wants to dance. Of course, you can't dance or do any of the sort of Western things in Iran right now, and what he goes through with his family and a young woman that he meets and stuff like that. A lovely sort of moving film that I liked a lot. There's a conversation on here with Asif Ghaffarian, who I believe was the young man who played the lead in the film. So it's called Desert Dancer, Frida Pinto film. A completely different movie. Joe Ross, Knock Knock.
Oh, Knock Knock!
I actually went to the premiere of this movie with Keanu Reeves, and I think Eli. I said Joe. Eli Roth. Yeah. I think Eli Roth's wife is one of the young lady leads in this. And
oh boy,
this was a movie that I actually went to the premiere of. Eli was there. Keanu was there. We had a nice chat. Keanu is a good friend. He's a very good friend. So when his boy calls him and says, I need you to star in this horrible movie that I'm going to make because my wife wants to.
Well, he's he's making another John Wick movie, so he's going to be set.
He's fantastic in the Wick movies. Yeah. If you like this kind of stuff, and some people do, this is one of those movies. Yeah. It actually is an incredibly uncomfortable movie. Audio commentary by Eli Roth, his wife, and the rest of the folks in the film. I noticed that Keanu is not in the audio commentary.
Yeah.
So that's what that is. We have a film called No Escape. This was a controversial film.
Oh my gosh, this thing!
A while ago, you'll remember Owen Wilson, Lake Bell, Pierce Brosnan.
This film had. You're right. The controversy on this was really interesting because everybody kind of jumped on this as being this. Some kind of neo-colonial racist movie about a white guy who has to sort of save his family in just some godforsaken, unstable Asian nation. And the funny thing is, that didn't even occur to me when watching it. I mean, the idea here is...
The film's too bad to get that deeply.
This film, I'll tell you exactly. The history of this film is really fascinating, and you can kind of fill in the blanks and figure it out. The guys who made this film... They had like one other film under their belt, and this is basically a movie that they made because they were able to I'm telling you, this is my guess. They were able to piece the money together and piece the talent together, and basically make it as kind of a resume piece. Say, look at what we can make a real tense action movie, and get the adrenaline pumping. And I don't think they ever anticipated good reviews at all. This is something he can take to Warner Brothers and say, hey, why don't you let me direct a...
I got through a budget. I didn't burn the money.
There you go.
Everybody got paid.
I know how to keep how to put a movie together and maintain tension. Let me do a Superman movie, or go to Disney and say, let me do a Marvel movie, whatever. Put me on the list at least. And that's what this is about. Owen Wilson and Lake Bell, parents bring it. He's going to basically Malaysia. A lot of people didn't realize it was Malaysia because they don't really emphasize it. But he's going to Malaysia because he's working for a company that purifies the water. Yada yada yada. Next thing you know, suddenly the whole country is erupting in a coup, and civilization is breaking down, and people want to kill everybody who works for the water company. And he's got to take his family on the run, and they've got to somehow, get out of Dodge without being shot by all the restless natives. Yeah. And of course, Pierce Brosnan shows up as a
kind of James Bondsy kind of guy.
He's a guy they meet on the plane, and he shows up later, and I'm with some kind of intelligence. Meanwhile, bang bang, he knows how to kill people. the whole thing is completely preposterous. There's a helicopter crash on a roof that is just, it's not to be believed how silly it is. But this is what I looked at. I thought, this is kind of like, they just want to do a low rent Year of Living Dangerously. That's all this is.
Yeah, yeah.
And the thing that our colleague Bob Strauss, who writes for the LA Daily News, I've had an ongoing thing with Bob Strauss. Bob hates the fact that at the end of the movie they are going essentially from Malaysia trying to make it to the Vietnamese border. Now, if you know anything,
oh my goodness.
If you know anything about geography, you know that Malaysia and Vietnam do not share a border, but they do share maritime rights.
Yeah.
So I keep kind of ribbing Bob about the maritime rights kind of counts as a border, but it doesn't really. It's a silly movie.
Yeah. Well, what are you going to do? Feature commentary on there, and the deleted scenes, behind the scenes gallery.
It's an interesting failure, but it's not a
no escape. What's interesting about it to me is Pierce Brosnan trying to find his way.
The one thing I was going to mention, I forgot to mention here, is the movie. Actually, I take it back. What I was saying earlier, it takes place in Malaysia, but it was shot in Thailand.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what I find is interesting, because Thailand has a very bristling film industry, and I would be willing to bet that one of the ways that they got this funded was by getting all kinds of freebies out of the Thai government by saying, we'd like to shoot a movie here, and it badmouths Malaysia. Because Thailand and Malaysia are neighbors, and they don't like each other in any way whatsoever. Thailand, a predominantly Buddhist society; Malaysia, predominantly Muslim society. There are all kinds of conflicts on that little peninsula that they share together. So they are not fond of each other, and I'm sure that as soon as they heard somebody wanted to just really, really stick it to Malaysia and make them look bad, they're like, "Hey, come on over. What can we give you? What can we provide?"
We'll let you make a movie about it. Happy to.
Yeah.
A Blu-ray here that I'm really anxious to see, actually. I haven't seen this one yet. Criterion Collection, Downhill Racer.
Downhill Racer.
Michael Ritchie, of course.
Such an interesting choice for a Criterion title, isn't it?
Isn't it, though?
Yeah.
Although it's a very avant-garde film. Even in its time, it's an avant-garde film. Thread-thin narrative.
This was a really interesting era, because we both recently saw the Steve McQueen documentary.
Exactly,
the Man
in
Le Mans, and that too, really a threadbare narrative, almost documentary-like in the realism that it depicts the race. And you, of course, have Grand Prix with James Garner. This was an era.
Which is a little bit more of a movie, but yes, yeah.
But this was an era where there were a lot of these. This is basically like Grand Prix or Le Mans on skis. With Robert Redford.
It's a lot of natural sound, not a lot of score. So a wonderful film. Can't wait to see this.
Yeah.
This is a restored high definition digital transfer. It has interviews from 2009 with Redford and the screenwriter. All kinds of stuff on this Blu-ray special edition from Criterion Collection, actually. You really, really should check this one out. I can't wait to crack it open.
This one I find kind of interesting. War Room is another one of those faith-based Christian films that just keep making money, despite the fact that critics rip them to pieces. These are the Kendrick brothers, who Stephen and Alex, who down in Georgia, they make all their movies down there. And these are the guys that did Fireproof and Courageous, and they just keep figuring out how to make these movies inexpensively, but with enough production value that they don't need to market them at all. The audience just comes all over these movies.
The audience.
The audience.
It has a very specific audience, and they make it out to see those movies. And the marketing plan, of course, is a sort of internecine thing of where everybody talks about these movies amongst themselves.
Yeah.
So the audience for this movie, and of course they do really well on Blu-ray.
But
DVD release.
What's so interesting about this is that all those previous movies were very specifically very, very white Christian movies for a white Christian audience.
This is an African American family,
and the white evangelicals came out in droves along with the black evangelicals.
Because the thing that they have in common is
amazing.
The tagline on that movie is "Prayer is a powerful weapon."
Yeah.
That will bring them to the movie.
It's amazing.
It tells you something else about the complications of race in our country, dude.
Yeah.
It is so complicated.
Yeah.
It's just not the simple sort of 1960s race narrative of my youth.
Yeah.
When I was born in 1961. And the narrative around race was, the pretty simple narrative. It's not that anymore. It's much more. Those same evangelicals, if they don't vote for Donald Trump, are going to be voting for Ben Carson.
It's kind of, it is a strange new world. Anyway, that's War Room. So those
anything on that thing? Do they ever?
Yeah. There's a commentary with the Kendrick brothers. And then a whole bunch of featurettes on the making of it, and basically just all EPK stuff. And then a few things on the Blu-ray specifically, like some bloopers and outtakes, and on a little thing on color grading, which I thought was rather rudimentary. It's sort of like for you and me, it's like color grading. Really, you want to? Is that an interesting featurette? Is somebody going to be sitting at home watching the movie? Go, I wonder how the color was graded. I think I want to. Not really, but
they use Da Vinci.
Yeah.
How did they do there? Rookie and the Flash, that Meryl Streep film that came out a little bit earlier this year. Dude. I had all kinds of issues with this movie, other than the fact that it's really not all that great of a movie in and of itself. But what really bugged me about this movie is the horrible cheating they do. They just cheat the numbers in this movie, right? and I don't care for that. Why cheat the numbers? Because it tells me maybe that's a Hollywood thing. Yeah. But Meryl Streep is playing an aging rocker who was supposed to have been a rocker in the 90s.
Oh, no.
You wouldn't have been rocking in the 90s. You'd have been rocking in the 80s, okay? Maybe the late 70s you're rocking, okay? if you're a young rocker. So they cheat this by like 25, 30 years in order to make the movie that they want to make. And I just don't get this. Why couldn't she have been from the era of Grace Slick?
Yeah.
She's still, what I'm saying? I don't know. It's a buggy kind of thing. Anyway, this is the DVD deleted scenes. Rick Springfield, rediscovering Rick Springfield. Love Rick. So that's good. Yeah.
Noah Baumbach and Greta Gerwig are quite a great team. They are finding a way of making a very I think they complement each other in a really interesting way.
She makes him a better filmmaker, less maudlin.
Yes,
she
forces him to be less sort of neurotic and self-absorbed and
navel gazing.
Yeah.
He can see. Yeah. He makes her a better actress.
Yeah.
which is an interesting thing too, isn't it? Anyway,
I found Mistress America to be really quite charming. Actually, this continues a very, very fine working relationship, and the idea here, she's not even sort of the central figure here. She's the film centers on a different female figure named Tracy, played by Lola Kirk, who is kind of having a little bit of a life crisis as a freshman in college, and family issues, and her dad's getting remarried, and there's this stepsister, potential stepsister, right? Who is played by Greta Gerwig, who is the daughter of her dad's fiancée. She's never met the girl. But in kind of a weird, spontaneous, impulsive moment when she feels she needs somebody, she reaches out to her, and they meet each other and become fast friends. But of course, Greta Gerwig is wild and quirky and unpredictable and spontaneous and just does what she wants when she wants. And she's this nutty, wacky free spirit that she is kind of her persona in movies. She's kind of like the
film becomes a bit of a comedy of eras.
Yeah.
And they're running around that mansion, and it's funny, and it's kind of a backstage kind of thing. It's funny.
It is. It's funny and poignant at the same time. So I thoroughly enjoyed it. I thought it was.
I've been smacking Noah Baumbach around for 20 years. For his navel gazing crap. Squid and a whale and messing with his parents.
Mark loves a squid and the whale because he says it's sort of how he grew up, which I feel like, well, then I hate how you grew up.
I'm so sorry.
I can't get down with that. But anyway, no, it's true. They're good for each other. So really quickly, make a quick mention of Grace of Monaco, the very, very unfortunate Olivier Dahan film. This is only out on DVD, no Blu-ray. It never made it to theaters. It wound up on television. It got an Emmy Award, I think, as kind of a consolation prize. It did not get a theatrical release because the Weinstein Company had a bitter fight with Olivier Dahan over the final cut. And what they wanted it to be. It opened the Cannes Film Festival and went precipitously downhill. Olivier Dahan, great filmmaker. He made La Vie en Rose, the Edith Piaf biopic that was my favorite film of that year that won an Academy Award for Best Actress.
Cotillard.
For Marion Cotillard. In this case, we have there was something really in the water. Nicole Kidman and Naomi Watts, best friends in real life. Naomi Watts starred as Princess Diana in a stinky movie. And then Nicole Kidman starred as Grace Kelly, becoming Princess of Monaco in another Stinky Princess movie. I don't know what kinds of horrible fates just frowned on them, but this is unfortunately not a good movie, and it's not really Olivier Dahan's fault. I mean, it's just not a good idea. It's not a good script. I guess it was better in the pitch than it wound up being on the page, but hopefully it doesn't derail his career. I know it's going to make him very bitter about making English language films. I hope
What's ironic is it's bad casting.
It is bad casting.
You wouldn't think so, would you? Yeah. Nicole Kidman but the thing about Grace of Monaco, about Princess Grace Kelly, is Grace Kelly was not cool.
No.
She was not cold. She was
incredibly warm.
She was incredibly warm and alluring, which is why she's fantastic in Rear Window with Jimmy Stewart. And we Nicole a little bit different in that sort of presentation, despite the fact that I can see why he cast her. You can put her in those gowns and that tiara, and you think to yourself, oh sure, Grace Kelly. No, not Grace Kelly at all.
Yeah, it's too bad.
You mind if I pop over to In Cold Blood here?
Do it. Jump into it.
We were talking about it earlier as we were having conversations about several uncomfortable things to do with Bill Cosby and other people who've done things that
and that have sort of derailed our esteem of them.
And and yet they have this work in the world that is important work sometimes. Just useful work other times. Here we have Truman Capote. Richard Brooks, and of course Mr. Beretta is who I'm talking about here. He is just fantastic in this movie. Just absolutely wonderful. And this is the Criterion Collection, Blu-ray Special Edition, 4K restoration. It's a extraordinary film based on Mr. Capote's fantastic book, directed beautifully by Richard Brooks here. And depending on how you feel about things, the irony. Some of the ironies that are involved here. I suppose we've moved far enough away in history that this one doesn't bother us.
I think a lot of people are going to be really upset because the only way that I think a lot of people have In Cold Blood right now on Blu-ray is on that combo set with Capote, Philip Seymour Hoffman's Oscar-winning role, and I think a lot of people are going to feel like, wow, I can't really upgrade. Now I'm going to have 2 copies of this movie. Yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah. That's what happens when you have double features.
Well, a lot of interesting stuff on this 1966 documentary featuring Truman Capote with this, as well as some other interviews with Barbara Walters and others. So a lot of really great stuff by this.
Yeah.
Truman Capote, In Cold Blood.
Some interesting classic films I should give a quick mention to from Kino. We've got The Devil's Disciple, which is from the 20th Century Fox MGM library. This is Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster and Laurence Olivier in a very unusual trio based on a George Bernard Shaw satire about the American Revolution. Obviously, Olivier playing the evil redcoat guy, and Kirk Douglas and Burt Lancaster being all manly and all American. If you know anything about Shaw's writing, it can be very, very cutting. And this is not My Fair Lady by any stretch of the imagination. This is not Pygmalion. This is not that. It's not that part of George Bernard Shaw. It's a little bit more bitter and angry. Anyway, it's once you get into the vibe of this thing, and this also, by the way, directed by Guy Hamilton.
Oh, there you go. The Bond film.
Second film this week of his. Once you kind of catch the vibe, I guess you will sort of appreciate it. But it is very. It's very, for a 1959 film. It's got a lot of vinegar in it, I have to say. Chuck Norris in Delta Force 2, otherwise known as the original version of Argo.
Yeah.
The Oscar-winning Argo.
Directed by his brother Aaron.
Yeah. I joke, of course, because the end of Argo is like a Delta Force movie. They're running down the runway.
All those V.M. Golan films were like silly. The end of Argo.
But Aaron Norris, of course, Chuck Norris's brother, was a choreographer on many of his early films, like Good Guys Wear Black and Force of One, and eventually was elevated to director so that Chuck wouldn't have to fight with a director, and he could just sort of tell his brother what he wanted him to do. Billy Drago and Richard Jekyll show up in this because they are in all B movies from the 1990s, and I guess it's a requirement. Also from Kino, rather unceremoniously released through the Studio Classics line, is Salaam Bombay, which is the film that put Mira Nair on the map. Yeah. And I still think it's probably her best film in many respects. Really an amazing movie. It was Oscar nominated at the time. Just an extraordinary. It won the Camera d'Or for Best First Film at the 1988 Cannes Film Festival. got an Oscar nomination the following year, and just a look at the agonies of street kids in the streets of Bombay. Still an amazing movie. Has a wonderful audio commentary with Mira, and another audio commentary with the cinematographer Sandy Sissel. And a bunch of the original documentaries behind the scenes. Really a great release. This thing should not be overlooked. It's really just a beautiful Blu-ray. And, I've interviewed Mira Nair a few times, and fascinating lady. I wish she'd go back to making those kinds of movies. She keeps making Hollywood movies, which for the payday, you and I were talking about this before the show.
Today. Yeah.
Nobody can make money like Hal Hartley's kickstarting movies now. You can't make money doing that. So they take the paydays, but boy, I wish she'd do something like that again.
It hurts the art.
She is such a talented lady, and she's so... It's funny, when you meet her, the wonderful thing about Mira Nair, she's so gracious. And you think you're meeting just some really wonderful, very gracious, conservative Indian woman, because she wears very, traditional Indian clothing and the whole thing. And then she just starts talking like a truck driver, and it is so funny and so entertaining and so amusing, and it is just to hear her sort of lace all of her, but she still speaks in a very gentle and elegant and patrician way, and then she'll just sort of drop an F-bomb on you, and it jars you, but it's very sweet and very funny. But she's so lovely and so talented, and lives in Uganda. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Yeah, she's lived in Uganda ever since she made Salam Bombay. That's her home. She's been...
Well, lots of expatriates.
Yeah. Well, there was a very large Indian community in Uganda until Idi Amin persecuted them. Yeah. But they still remained.
Good movies about that.
They still remained, yeah. And she returned and was, has become a part of that sort of expatriate Indian community inUganda. Yeah, the diaspora, exactly. And then Ghost Story, which is actually quite a lot of fun. Dates a little bit, 1981, of course.
John Irving.
John Irvin, who, by the way, Vietnam vet, you know that.
Oh,
John
sure.
Irvin from Hamburger Hill was essentially his story.
Yeah, that grind of that actual grind. It's interesting combination of films, John Irvin. Is all Ghost Story there with,
Well, this is a combination of Stephen King and Peter Straub, two horror masters and their sensibilities, and with a cast of great old actors as they're aging: Fred Astaire, Melvin Douglas, Douglas Fairbanks Jr., John Houseman, and then you throw in Patricia Neal and a very young Alice Krieg. And it's actually a pretty decent film. I think it dates shockingly well. Really good score by Philippe Sard. So that's also on Blu-ray, courtesy of Scream Factory, the line from Shout Factory.
What do I got over here? I got a Sergeant Kabuki, man. I got to tell you, when I first got to L.A., and I was looking for work, doing pretty much anything, and I ran into Lloyd Kaufman. And
everyone runs into Lloyd Kaufman.
And Lloyd would give me all kinds of wacky things to do, including to write articles for Lloyd and taglines for his movies and all kinds of nutty things. And I had never been a particular fan of any of those trauma films that he had been putting out for years. They were just not my particular taste in genre. But they became very, very popular. I do not know that there's an equivalent of the sort of Lloyd Kaufman, Michael Hertz, school of filmmaking, which is different than very different than what the progenitor of every filmmaker that ever whose name escapes me at the moment. It's very different than what he was doing, actually. Little Shop of Horrors and all that kind of stuff.
Corman.
The Corman brothers. The Corman brothers. The Corman brothers.
Roger and his brother was always left out. But
they were brothers. That was a Gene.
Gene.
And so what Lloyd was doing came a little bit later, but was actually quite different than what they were doing at the time. Anyway, this is Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD. Very popular, these movies, for a very long time. They put all kinds of stuff on these. So you have an intro and exclusive interviews and audio commentaries. And the original trailer and more stuff than you can possibly think of. So if you're a cultist from this period of filmmaking, have fun with Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD.
Very nice.
I got a relatively recent movies. I did not see this when it came out. Cooties. A lot of folks in this movie. You got Elijah Wood, Rainn Wilson. It's starring in the film. I'm not exactly sure what it's about. It looks funny. I know what cooties are, but I wonder if they're thinking the same thing I'm thinking when they say cooties.
You know what? We're sort of grasping at straws here, but I actually heard that was okay and pretty funny.
We'll check it out. And then I got this.
This is what you get the week after we vote, folks. We're kind of treading water.
I cannot honestly say that I will ever open that.
Yeah.
And then I got this 10 movie collection, action pack collection. This looks like a lot of fun. I am going to open this package 10 movies starring folks like Gary Cooper, Anthony Quinn, John Wayne, Kirk Douglas, Jimmy Cagney, Steve McQueen.
This is one of those Mill Creek multi-film sets.
Frank Sinatra, Charles Bronson, Rock Hudson, and James Brolin in the 10 films that occupy this single disc. So that is fantastic.
Throw it on during a Christmas party. And with that, segueing to a few lingering Christmas titles, for those of you that still want to go out and grab something, there's actually, as there is every year, a new Steelbook release of Chevy Chase and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. Forget about the new reboot of Christmas Vacation that came out earlier with Ed Helms, which is absolutely horrible. Stick with the original Vacation films, and frankly, Christmas Vacation is as funny as the original Vacation, if not more so. Randy Quaid, who, of course, as anybody who's been following the news knows, is completely off the wacky deep end. But Randy Quaid is hilarious in this movie. He's so pricelessly funny. The squirrel in the tree, the whole deal, the lights on the house, great movie. I love this movie. This Steelbook is beautiful. Great picture of Chevy on the front of it. And
given that remake of the original Vacation that they did here a while ago, they held it up for 3 movies.
Yeah.
There are not a whole lot of trilogies that that can hold it together. 3 of those Christmas Vacation movies with Chevy Chase were funny. The original and the European Vacation, Christmas Vacation.
Yeah.
All funny movies.
All funny movies. And this has a great audio commentary. Randy Quaid, Beverly D'Angelo, Johnny Galecki, Miriam Flynn, and director Jeremiah Chechik, along with producer Maddie Simmons. Really, really fun movie. Then we've got a quartet of films that are all part of the Hallmark Channel Holiday Collection. Crown for Christmas with Danica McKellar and Rupert Penry Jones. Ice Sculpture Christmas with Rachel Boston, David Alpay, and Brenda Strong. Sarah Lancaster and Brendan Penny in 'Tis the Season for Love. And lastly, Candace Cameron Bure and Paul Green in A Christmas Detour. What all of these have in common is that they star people you have never heard of, and they are all schmaltzy romances.
A lot of those people were sitcom stars between 1981 and 1982.
Christmas movies also have terrible puns in their titles. This may be the worst one I have ever seen. I have not seen it. It's from Level 33, but I've got to give them props. This is probably the best cover I have ever seen for a Christmas movie. Yes. It is called Up on the Woof Top.
Yep.
WOOF. The 2 O's in woof are Christmas ornaments.
Yes.
And it is a picture of a little puppy, looks like a Jack Russell Terrier or a beagle or something, sticking his head out of the chimney with a Santa cap on. Santa's best friend is coming to town. That is the tagline. It gets the Dove Family Approved label. You know what? Go for it. Watch this. Let us know what you think. I will probably watch this with my daughter before Christmas just because this looks so up on the woof top. What can I tell you?
It's an adorable cover.
Up on the woof top. It's a great pun. You know, here's what I'm also going to recommend for people to. Oh, actually, here's another one. The First Silent Night, hosted by Simon Callow. This is a PBS thing that is all about the origin of Silent Night, Franz Gruber, how the song was written, the circumstances of it. A wonderful story. I used to read this when I was a kid. We read this every Christmas. And this is the most, put it on. It's such a wonderful story, how this all happened. You go to all the Salzburg destinations, the Salzburg locations where this all took place. Simon Callow, such a wonderful, wonderful figure. You know, 4 Weddings and a Funeral. Mm-hmm. You know him. He's a great actor, good director too. And then here, I'm going to make a recommendation. You know, what Mark and I used to do on Christmas shows, we used to talk about all the exercise DVDs that were available to work off the holiday pounds. Nobody's really promoting exercise videos anymore. Apparently that market has vanished. But you know what? I'm not going to tell people to work off the pounds. I'm going to tell you how to put them on. So go ahead and get yourself Season 8 of Cook's Country.
Yeah.
America's Test Kitchen. Really wonderful recipes here. I'm especially enthralled by fried chicken and grilled peppers. And some of these Southern comfort foods here, like Delta Hot tamales. There's also a skillet roast chicken and potatoes recipe that looks absolutely sensational, and then a few others. Since I don't eat pork or beef, I've been making modifications on some of these. But you got things like apple pie with cheddar cheese crust.
Ooh, lovely!
Can you believe that?
Lovely.
My goodness.
The exact opposite of the exercise videos.
Yes. We also have Gabrielle Hamilton in Mind of a Chef Season 4. This has a few really great recipes in it as well, like poulet à la crème. That means cream chicken and zucchini tops, fried zucchini tops.
That's a PBS series. All of these are PBS?
Yes, all of this is PBS stuff. Because PBS is where you go to find out how to cook these days. Chef's Life with Vivian Howard, their holiday special, which includes a PDF of all the recipes on this, and you'll just absolutely die. There's like a red velvet cake here that is just beyond belief. And then I'll have what Phil's having with Phil Rosenthal, also PBS. He goes all over the world for some amazing foods, including L.A., Barcelona, excuse me, Tokyo, Paris, just wonderful. And especially the stuff in Paris is just not to be believed. So, yeah, load up, get fat.
Outstanding. Hey,
get fat. Do not apologize about it.
And don't exercise later either.
All right, Tim. I think we got some. Still got a few things over there. I want to. I think you like. Yeah, there we go. You had a few down there. As you can see, folks, we are crazy disorganized. But I'm going to just make quick mention right now. We have some new MHZ titles. In the past, we have referred to this as megahertz. It's not megahertz. We were scolded by the people and said, no, it's not megahertz. It is MHZ. So MHZ Choice is their new line. And, of course, MHZ releases really amazing European foreign language drama television, the stuff that nobody else has really had the courage to do anything with. And they just keep finding really, really great stuff. And I've got two here. The French series, A French Village, Un Village Français. This is season 1, and essentially this is almost kind of Downton Abbey-ish in a way. By that I mean it's a period show that examines how characters' lives are impacted by the thrust of history. And this is dealing specifically with World War II, French occupation, 1940. You know, we're on the cusp of, you know, World War II is underway, but the worst has yet to come. And Germany occupies France in June of 1940. And this deals with how these characters deal with this. And I have never seen a French show go there before. So bravo to them for doing that. And then we have two sets for this series called. Oh, I know I'm going to completely mutilate the title. Fjallb&auml Murders. Fjallb&auml Murders. This is a Swedish show, set 1 and set 2. This is all comes from the novelistic crime world of an author by the name of Camilla ckberg, who is apparently a big deal in Sweden. Never read any of her stuff, but at least to my knowledge. But in any case, this is some pretty gritty stuff. Sweden used to make just kind of really good drama back when they just sort of had like Ingmar Bergman shows and everything's very intense, but crime is the new thing. Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and all that stuff. So
crime and government and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, because Sweden has really started pioneering. They go deeper and darker than they even do in England with all this crime stuff. So anyway, really, really good series. Some just fascinating writing and really compelling backdrops. Actually, it's a really good show. So that's the Fjallb&auml Murders, FJA with the 2 dots over it, LLBACKA. And I guess with the 2 dots over it, I guess Fjell. Is that how what the 2 dots do? I don't know. Whatever.
It feels Swedish that way.
It does.
I have 3 from the Warner Brothers Archive collection here.
Yeah.
Great classic films here. Everything I Have Is Yours, which is, of course, a wonderful old film from Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer library. The Girl Most Likely, Jane Powell, Cliff Robertson. Can't go wrong there. And The Merry Widow, Lana Turner. Also can't go wrong there. All 3 of these films. Not a lot coming with them, though, I must say. This Warner Archive collection, Wade, they don't exactly pile on the special features and additions or anything.
No, they sure don't.
Just all like the film itself and its original format.
This is kind of a regular thing that we talk about, and unfortunately, I haven't had a chance to even get into any of these. But they're all DVD-Rs. They're manufacture on demand, MOD, but they do they're some of the best looking titles that you'll find anywhere out there. The Warner Archive people really doing them. They aren't like the monkey that just pushes the button on the machine and lets it roll. The Warner Archive people are very, very attentive to the archives, and they have a great team over there. So we will love the work they do.
Mostly, they're getting the movies out into the world. Is what
they're getting them out into the world. They're making them available, and there's something that goes on at Warner Archive that does not go on elsewhere, which is they curate the films that they release, and I wish more people would appreciate the importance of curation. And that's I love what they do.
Well, not everything that got shot needs to be out in the world. I got Joel McCrea here. This is a Blu-ray, The Gunfight at Dodge City. A film that I do not actually remember. Wade, do you remember this movie?
Not at all.
Joseph Newman film.
But Joel McCrea made so much stuff. Those they crank those westerns out like programmers, just
particularly
nonstop.
that period from 1949 to
about 1959.
Then I got First Features Collection, 10 movie set. Another one of those 10 movie sets. Introducing. This is going to be fantastic for you. These are introductory film. You've got Marilyn Monroe. You got Bette Davis. You got Ava Gardner. You got Bing Crosby, Clark Gable, Tommy Lee Jones, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Callie and Son, which is a movie that I really, really dug. And,
I don't even care if the movies are bad.
And young Dennis Quaid, young Keanu Reeves, and young Jeff Bridges, and Yin and the Yang of Mr. Go.
Nice.
All on this one set. These movies date back as early as about the old movies date back to the 30s, and some of these Jeff Bridges movie is a 1971 film.
There we go.
So that's take a look at some of your favorite movie stars when they still had hair.
Nice.
Attack of the Killer Bees, another 10 movie sort of B movie collection. Killer Bees, very clever there. The Wasp, the Wasp Woman, Phantom from 10,000 Leagues, Attack of the Giant Leeches. All of these movies are in public domain, which is why I think they can be so easily gathered together and put together on little collections like this. What this tends to do is just give you versions that look a little bit better than what you might get when you're, out at the AM, PM at night, and you pick up one of those things that cost $1.95 or something like that.
Yeah.
Those are probably not going to look very good. These will look much, much better. So that's Attack of the Killer Bees, a 10-movie collection out from Mill Creek.
Very good. Tim, let me. I'm gonna knock out some television here real quickly, and then we'll close out the show. We have a few final major TV seasonal releases that might be good for people's gift guides. So I'll run through these. The Sergeant Bilko Phil Silvers Show collection, which is out as a complete set, but if you've been buying it in individual seasons, the 4th season. 35 episodes from the era when they could actually do 35 episodes in a given season.
That's what it was. Well, the 3 networks. Actually, 4 networks when that show was on because the DuPont network was still in existence.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm. Isn't that wild? I always forget that happened. DuPont, which would be the Dow network today, based on that merger announcement. Okay. Anyway, the Sergeant Bilko Phil Silvers Show, 4th season, 35 episodes. Amazing how they actually could make that many episodes back in the 60s. And more recently, the Emmy-winning Inside Amy Schumer, which is season 3. She's not going to be doing that much longer now that she's got her film career going. But Inside Amy Schumer's 3rd season, really good, great sketch comedy, good writing. She is fantastic.
I think she caught a Golden Globe nomination yesterday, if I'm not mistaken.
I think she did too.
People check me on that, but I think
she did. Season 1 of Zoo, which is from CBS and based on James Patterson novel.
Yeah, a little bit off the beaten path for James Patterson.
Kind of weird, right?
Yeah.
The idea is that suddenly animals are turning on people. It's kind of like Planet of the Apes, except with all animals, or the birds maybe is a better analogy.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we'll see where this thing goes. I'm not sure that there's a lot of future to a show that's kind of post-apocalyptic animals versus human kind of thing. But I mean, we'll see. Under the Dome, season 3, Stephen King.
I just couldn't get into it.
Yeah,
I gave it a good go. 2 seasons.
I'll tell you, it's a beautiful box. I mean, they're also from CBS. Nice, beautiful, beautiful gift-worthy box. But it's still,
It just wasn't as sophisticated as I was hoping it would be. I was hoping that they would get into the political ramifications of such a circumstance more than the just sort of power politics of such a circumstance. You know what I mean? It's not interesting.
I think the stress of network politics and audience expectations and the fact that every series now has to hit a home run out of the gate, that you can't be like Cheers. You know, you remember Cheers was practically the lowest rated show on television for 3 years. It was in the basement, and then suddenly it caught on. And by about and then in the fourth, and then I think by its 5th season, it was the #1 show on television. It just steadily can't do that anymore. Yeah. You got to come out and they literally, you have to prove yourself. You got like 5-6 episodes. You got to show that you got the stuff, and if you don't hit it right out, and I think that's part of it. And
then you're only going to have 13 to make your case in the first place.
Yeah. Fear the Walking Dead, complete first season from AMC. I'm not really into the whole Walking Dead thing.
Not a Walking Dead guy.
Yeah, I know, but the way they're expanding the universe, this seems to be popular with the fans.
Set in L.A., what's interesting about that one is set in contemporary L.A., so,
It's,
although I'm almost certain they don't actually shoot any of it.
It's not going to be as popular as the Walking Dead. It's not. It's a little bit like the Better Off Saul, right? It sort of feels like they're still trying to milk it, or Archie Bunker's Place.
Yeah,
right. Doesn't it feel like one of those things? CPO Sharky has been out in its complete series, but that doesn't stop them from doing the best of season 1. So it's basically a lot of Don Rickles just being insulting.
It's Gomer Pyle, USMC, only
Except instead of Sergeant Carter, it's Don Rickles. Yeah. I have always wanted to see a face-off between Don Rickles and Donald Trump. I've always wanted that. I've always wanted to see
a comb-over face-off.
Just to yell at each other and insult each other and see who could get the other one off his game. I wonder if
Rickles is funnier.
I wonder if they could. Of course he's. But wouldn't they, you think they do that for charity? You think I'd buy a ticket?
I thought Don Rickles was dead.
You know what?
I don't know. But
he is immortal. He was. There was a place over here, just over the hill, that he performed at like 6 months ago.
Oh, that is awesome.
And he still does Vegas. He's amazing.
That is awesome. I take it back, Don.
He is amazing. And then the last TV title here is Black Sails, 2nd season. Pretty cool. Stars. I completely approve of this. I think this is the whole, anything that deals with, period pirates and nautical stuff. I'm all about it. Just sails and sailing ships and men with knives and guns and swords and batten the hatches and pull in the sheets. I love it. It's good stuff. Good swashbuckling television. Obviously, yes, I know it's Pirates of the Caribbean for TV. I get it. I'm not totally, but as shameless as that is, I think Starz has pulled the trigger on a really, really good one. So this is a lot of fun on Blu-ray and digital HD ultraviolet combo set. Perfectly wonderful. And then, actually, before we completely go, another Foils War is this is an amazing complete saga box set for Foils War is one of the best TV shows on television. Period. It's just
I'm a big fan of Mr. Kitchen for one thing.
Yes,
another stalwart British actor whose career you can follow back 50 years now, I suppose, to the late 60s, and see nothing but gems. And he's outstanding in that series.
He's fantastic. Michael Kitchen, great actor. Wish he'd show up in some features now and again. But anyway, great mystery series. Takes place during World War II and all the way into the Cold War. 6 hours of bonus features on this beautiful box set of the complete saga. Just first-rate stuff from Acorn. The hour-long Foils War Revisited retrospective, which for fans is just not to be believed how good that is. Lots of interviews, tons of interviews, documentaries, behind-the-scenes stuff on the production and the historical backdrop and photo galleries. It's educational if nothing else. So that is Foils War, the complete saga in a beautiful collectible box that is really, really sensational. 29 discs, so a real winner from the people at Acorn. And with that, that is this show. So, Tim, thank you for
2 weeks before Christmas.
That is. So next week will be the last one until Mark comes back in the new year. So we'll see you guys again next week. And for now, that's it. The balcony is burning down.
Merry Christmas, baby. Should it treat me nice? Merry Christmas, baby. Should it treat me nice? You bought me a diamond ring for Christmas. I feel like I'm in paradise. I feel mighty fine, y'all. I got music on my radio. Feel mighty fine, girl. I got music on my radio. Oh, oh, oh. I feel like I wanna kiss you, standing beneath that mistletoe. Santa came down the chimney, 3:30, y'all. Left all them a good old present for my baby and for me. Ha ha ha. Merry Christmas, baby.